Hi guys, glad that you're here. Welcome to Inside the Tank. My name is Jay, and what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the episode of Shark Tank that you just saw. So today we're in season 6, episode 19, and we're going to be looking at the 4 deals that were presented and a little bit about the recap that was given from the previous episode as well. If you are currently watching live and you're looking at us from YouTube, you want to go over to cashflowdiary.tv. Again, cashflowdiary.tv to join us in the chat room. That way I can get your comments, your discussions, and be able to communicate back and forth, or just send us a tweet at @cashflowdiary. That'll also work as well. Either way it goes, what we're going to do is we're going to break down some of the deals, find out, would you invest in that particular deal, and more importantly, why or why not, to understand why we had so many deals today kind of happen, and it was definitely a different way of seeing them happen than I was actually expecting. So I'm going to show you my notes, what I was writing, what I thought was important. I want to hear from you guys what you thought was important, and most importantly, would you, as I've said before, would you actually invest as well? Now, if you're joining us for the first time, you don't know who I am. Again, name is Jay. We've been doing real estate investing for a number of years. My wife and I started a while ago, if you will, and we just enjoy the show Shark Tank. We started with, like I said before, credit score 398, couldn't put $75 together. We now have a portfolio that spans hundreds of units across the U.S., commercial real estate and all kinds of things. And at the end of the day, what I love to do is that show Shark Tank is more about education than it is entertainment. So you could call it edutainment, if you will. We're going to break it down and help all of us understand it better so that you and I can go out there and provide some of those same jobs with the information that we all learn. So let's get started on talking about this. Let's see. Today let me see. Yeah. There's the recap. So yes, we had deal number one. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, you want to go over to cashflowdiary.tv so that I can go ahead and get your comments here. I see Omar and Noreen, Jill. Excellent. Glad that you guys are here. Bay Area Ken, glad that you are here as well. We are talking about episode 6. We're going to talk first about the Seiko Designs deal, Seiko's Designs deals. The individuals, Liz and Ben, and from Portland, Oregon out there, they were asking for $300,000 for 10% equity. Now, the first thing that I want to make sure everybody understands, that's the same as saying, hey, would you pay me $3 million for the company? That's the first thing that you're looking at, is when most of the entrepreneurs come out there, they're telling you how much they believe the company is worth, etc. Hopefully you understand how to calculate that, but just in case you don't, let me give you a quick, easy way to figure out that number. Anytime someone is talking about it, so what you're going to do is you're going to take that 300,000, just divide by that interest or by the equity percentage that they're talking about. And that's going to give you the valuation that they're looking for, which in this case is $3 million in my best Dr. Evil voice that I could possibly imagine. Anyway, so let's talk about this particular one. So the question is would you have actually invested in this particular deal? Feel free to type that in the chat room. Tell us why. I'm going to tell you that I love the mission, and that's what they were keen on, and hopefully you heard that too, is that the mission, your company must have a mission. You should have it. They were clear on it and communicating it, but they totally missed the mark, and I saw it. I'm sure you guys saw it too. They didn't have necessarily the business intent behind the business. I love the idea, instead of it being charity, though, that it was actually part of the job. So hopefully that you didn't miss that either, because I've heard it said that if you give someone, it's the whole thing, giving somebody a fish versus teaching them how to fish. There's an element of dignity that comes from providing a job or even a loan that is different than just handing someone money with charity, etc., etc. And I don't know about you guys, but I was taking notes, if you're just wondering. Not that you can read most of these things, but I'm just reviewing some of the things that I was talking about, and I realized that while we were listening, hopefully you saw why many of them did not purchase, or why they were not into this particular product. Mark went out really, really quickly. Barbara was, just didn't understand the profit motive. Again, the business intent was kind of missing. Kevin, I don't know if you heard his very first comment when she was talking about making the sandals in Uganda. He's like, yeah, but is it cheaper than China? He was already after trying to understand the economics, and I knew where he was headed long before there. And at the end of the day, I'm sure they have a great product. I'm sure that's awesome. The point is, though, if you can't clearly communicate your vision as well as your mission, and most importantly, how the business is to operate, it's going to be a challenge for you to go out there and be able to actually get the investment or investors that you're looking for. The other thing from a business aspect that I want to make sure that I thought was interesting is that when they came down to their valuation methodology, they used a multiple of 2.7 times revenue. And I don't know if you picked up on that, but typically you're not going to use revenue. That doesn't mean you couldn't. Typically, especially I know in the apartment world or real estate world, from an income standpoint, you can use what is known as net operating income. And inside EBITDA, there it is. Inside the business, you're going to use the EBITDA calculation, which in case you haven't picked up on that before, you can go over to Investopedia. It's a great website for you to go to when you're trying to understand some of these terms and words, to be able to understand what those numbers mean. At the end of the day, it's usually a multiple of one of those numbers in order to get the correct valuation on the business. So, however, if you're selling, you want to sell from the highest number you got, right? The number that's going to look best. So it made sense to do it for them off of revenue, especially when they had the kind of revenues that you guys, or that they were telling us that they had. So with that being the case, I want to know, would you have purchased? If so, I can tell you for myself, this was an absolute non-starter when I saw the $65 price tag on the actual product in and of itself. It was a $65 price tag, and secondly, it was the fact that there's going to be multiple SKUs to manage. Now, I don't like that inventory confusion. Having done minor retail online in the past, having to know and project which color and which size and all of these things into the future to make sure that I can fulfill on demand is nerve-wracking to me. So just in general, that's not a play that I'm ever going to say, yay, go for. But when they had all those extra ribbons, I was like, oh boy, I can get how they can make a ton of money with those ribbons and make that really, really work very, very well. In fact, there's probably even a licensing play behind all that. At the end of the day, the ribbon, the shoes were a definite non-starter for me. So just keep that in mind. And at the end, when you're watching the show, always find out why they buy or why they don't buy. I think that's also interesting as well. So let's move on to deal number 2. Now, deal number 2, the Gold Rush Nugget Bucket. Now, first of all, I got to say, when he said the name, I was like, okay, cool, neat name. Gold Rush Nugget Bucket, $60,000 for 15%. It's another way of saying approximately a $400,000 value. He got 2 offers, $60K for 50 and $60K for 25. And if I'm not mistaken, he ended up taking the $60K for 25. Is that right? Yeah. He ended up taking the $60K for 25, and I can't blame him. It's $240,000 is what he got for the company in that particular sense. And I believe he said he had 192 in it. So therefore he's up 50 grand in this particular case, at least on his balance sheet. And he's got 2 patents as well. Now, I don't know if you caught this, but he's, depending on the where he was selling it. No. He said he had a 70% profit margin. 70% profit margin is strong. That means you have all the money you need to purchase customers all day long. And that's probably the one thing that he's not doing at this particular moment that I'm guessing Robert identified. He's like, he's not purchasing customers, and he can. And when I say purchasing customers, that's the purpose of advertising. So, and especially in, some of the later deals in this particular episode, you heard them begin to ask, what does it cost you to gain a customer? And having that number is hyper critical and very important. And if you've got a $100 product and $70 of it is absolutely, pure margin, that's room for you to go out there and buy up your customers as fast as you want to. Now, in that particular case, you're probably going to want to develop a second product or something else with this. Who knows? But at the end of the day, He's doing pretty good at $290,000 in sales in 17 months. I think that's why it came down to it. Now, did you notice how quickly Mark said no? I thought that was awesome. And then Kevin, with his 50% offer, I was actually shocked that it wasn't a royalty deal because that's, well, we all know Kevin. That's pretty much what he likes to do. And at the end of the day, being able to see the vision for the product is where Lori, I think, was stuck, because she called it a toy. And if it's a toy, it's $100 toy. And I get her, you know, hey, what kind of toy do you going to get for $100? So how can I sell 2 million units? And Barbara was willing to buy one for her husband, which I thought was pretty interesting. I don't know if she's trying to give him something to do or what, but at the end of the day, I think it's awesome. Nonetheless, here's the lesson. No matter how crazy your idea, I mean, I'm looking at this like I have never in my life wanted to pan for gold for fun. If I'm going to pan for gold, it's going to be because I own a gold mine or I'm actually trying to make money from the gold, right? But clearly there's a market out there, and, you know, hey.
What about your kids?
What, my kids? I don't care. Whatever.
Hours to do in the park?
My kid, I'm not going to pay $100 for it. That's the whole point. I think that's what Lori was talking about. I'm not going to pay $100 for a bucket for my kids. But whatever. Hey, it doesn't matter. There's enough people out there. In fact, I'm willing to bet the Shark Tank effect has already happened for this particular individual, and people have gone online. I know I've done it, where and if you're not familiar with the Shark Tank effect, it's like after the show airs, you suddenly in that next week get millions of dollars worth of sales simply because, well, it's a form of what they would call native advertising. Here's an ad for the product. You get to understand the product and the numbers, and they're even telling you, hey, I'm going to make money, but you know, here it is, and then you start looking it up. I know I've done this where I went and looked things up, and I've bought, I think, at least one, if not two different products from watching the show. So, and I'm sure that that's happening because the Gold Rush Nugget bucket is actually not something that I would have been in. The numbers are fine, but again, because I have no identity with the product, it's like, that's not going to happen any way, shape, or form. But I get you, you know, to each their own, Sandy's talking about she would pan for gold for fun, but not for, see, it's the $100 price point. I'm telling you, that $100 is like, seriously? Not for $100. I'm just not doing it. There's just no part of it that makes sense. There's no part of it that makes sense. All right. Let's see if we can't get over to deal number 3. Now, I don't know about you, but when she said the name of the company, I just chuckled. Boobie Pack. I'm like, yeah, that's really, 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 really funny. So we've got $80,000 for a 20% stake inside Boobie Pack. Now, I was thinking, there's a core concept for business that you got to remember is like you give more in use value than you take in cash value. And I don't know about the price point, but I love the fact that the product can be made so inexpensively. $55 for the product itself seemed a little steep to me. However, if she's still getting sales, I think that's great. I think she'd probably get more sales. One of the things that I know I would do to scale this is to lower the price point to be able to get it out to more people, hopefully. So that they could actually think about buying 3 or 4 of them, you know, and it wouldn't have to go down too much, but I think it's definitely something there. She also knew her customer acquisition number, so she knew that it cost her $17.17 to get a customer, and about the same for the product cost as well. What you're looking at there, the difference between that purchase price and those two numbers, the $7.77 and the $7.17, the difference is the contribution margin. You want that number to be nice and fat and as much as you possibly can in many different ways. So just keep that in mind. Again, another neat idea started on Kickstarter. So, you know, I've not used Kickstarter, but I've looked at a lot of stuff. It's like shopping, right? Before the stuff comes out, $10,000 sales on the first day says that you're doing something right, which I think was absolutely good. Now, she ended up getting 3 offers? Which one did she ended up? Barbara Carr. Yes, I remember. Okay, that's right. Now I thought it was interesting because Barbara made it sound like she was done. She was like, "You don't need me. You don't need anybody." Which, when you're there, I mean, they went through the process to get on the show, and then you're like, "You don't need anybody." I'm like, that's like the ultimate letdown. It's like, no, but I want somebody. I may not need somebody, but I want somebody. Another way to interpret that type of an answer is what you really need is a business mentor. And I think that's what Barbara was seeing, is that business mentor. And, you know, in essence, she paid 25% of her company in this particular case for that business mentor. She got it, which is great. And I'm sure it's going to do fine. I'm sure we'll end up seeing it in sporting goods stores and all these other things. And I think it's a great idea because I know when my wife likes to go exercise, and she's always like, where am I going to put stuff? And I, you know, having never worn anything like that, I can see the need for it. However, I think it's definitely, I think it's a great product. I'm sure we're going to see many different revisions of it, colors and sizes and probably brands and who knows. But I think there was something that Cece said that I think is actually a good, smart move on her part, is that she was open to a licensing deal. And I think, you know, if Barbara can work that out, I'm sure that's going to totally happen. And again, for those of you who are familiar with the profit analysis quadrant, I want to show you something that was absolutely important in this particular deal. Now, you may not know the profit analysis quadrant. This may be the first time that you and I are meeting, and that's completely fine. But this is the tool. You've heard people say you can do a deal on the back of a napkin, and if you've ever tried to raise capital yourself, you're looking for ways to explain how things work. This was one of those deals where the difference between the offers was based upon the different quadrants and that the individuals were looking at. Now, again, because it's business, they don't tend to focus on what's in quadrant 2 a whole lot. And just to give you guys a quick recap, quadrant 1 is all about the appreciation or the growth of the business. The depreciation from the tax benefits, the amortizations from any sort of loans is quadrant 3. And then the cash flow from operations, if you will, is what we're talking about in that particular sense. Let me go back to those offers real fast. She had... Yes, the 10%, $10 per unit. I was like, oh my God, no. Fundamental rule is, if you understand, is that basically what did I do? Oh, is that it? Yep. Okay. So basically understand that when you're trying to grow, which is what Q1 is all about in terms of appreciation. You're trying to force appreciation, make the business worth more, make the property worth more, make your deal worth more, whatever it is, which is the major play inside of a lot of the deals that are in Shark Tank, is what can I make here? What is it worth today? What could it be worth based upon market capitalization and what we could do? And what the one thing you don't do when you're trying to grow is you take money out of the company, and that's exactly what royalty deals do, is that they take money out of the company. You don't want to do that until you reach stability and you're not concerned about growth, or you're able to have so much excess cash that you don't have to concern yourself with growth as much, or you have the ability to pay that dividend as well. You've heard of dividend paying stocks and non-dividend paying stocks or growth stocks, because you're reinvesting what would have been the dividend into R&D, into infrastructure, into teammates and building. Because if I remember correctly, Cece said she was solo right now, and one of the things that I saw that she was missing anyway, is the infrastructure to actually scale, because that's pretty much why you would want to license this as well, is because that particular deal, you would want to license this simply because the person you're licensing it to already has the infrastructure to scale, as well as the distribution and sales, so you don't have to worry about that as well. But I think, she got the right person, but possibly she got the right person for her, and hopefully you saw that as well. That was an investor match. I think Barbara did that deal very much so because she wanted to protect this fledgling entrepreneur from the guys and say, look, I can show you. I think Barbara's really going to work to show her that you didn't need anybody. That is my entire feeling right there. I could be 100% wrong, but you guys, you can tell me what you think as well. Let me see. Sep is asking a question. Jay, do any Shark Tank deals have Q2? They do have them. Every deal has it. So when you're owning a business and a business has equipment of any kind, like the last deal probably has the most Q2. Inventory also works. So they have it there, but the benefit is nowhere near what you're used to when it comes inside of real estate. And again, what Sepp is referring to is the profit analysis quadrant. It's a tool that I know he's used to raise millions of dollars. It's a tool that I've used to raise millions of dollars. There's, all of those types of things. So, let me see. Jill's also said she bought a daisy cake. That's awesome. Yep, absolutely. Isn't Barbara all about retail, though? Well, I'm sure she is about retail, but at the end of the day, I think licensing was a much better play on this. I mean, just think about it. If Under Armour, because that's who I'm thinking, right? I want to get that technology, that patent over to Under Armour and just let them run with it. At the end of the day, I think that's the best play. If Barbara's got that kind of relationship, that's where my mind goes. No need to, if she already had the infrastructure, sure, maybe, but now she's got to build a brand. I mean, yeah, she got a great start by having millions upon millions of people watch it right now. But I think the best play is there. Sandra is, when I raised capital for my business past, I didn't have the profit analysis quadrant. It would have been handy. Had to create a business plan, come up with numbers. I did get the money from angels, though. Yep. There are many ways to go out there and source the capital, and that's one of the things that we've been able to do is to help people figure out their businesses so that they go out there and get the capital. I know that's the major play of how we've been able to purchase hundreds of units all across the U.S. using none of our own money. And credit is by raising the capital as well. Yeah, are we at deal 4?
I have a question.
Yeah, we'll go for it.
They won't be able to hear me, but
they can't hear.
Why does Mr. Wonderful always offer the equity still out of the money out of the deal?
What do you mean, like the
$10 a unit?
The $10 a unit, and then
he always does that.
Well, he's doing that because he's concerned about getting his money back. See, there's a difference between. All right, he was asking why does Mr. Wonderful always go for those royalties? There's a difference between these two words, and you've got to understand there's a return of my investment and there's a return on my investment. Mr. Wonderful is concerned about the return of his investment. If I give you 80 grand, how soon do I get it back? Whatever happens after that is what I like to call playing with house money, right? It's like if you went to Vegas, and I'm not saying business is gambling, but the analogy will fit. If you take $1,000 to Vegas or $100 or whatever you guys might take, soon as you still have chips and you can cash out your $100, your worst case scenario is that you leave with what you came with. And that's what he's trying to get to. And he's trying to get there as quickly as humanly possible because then he breathes. He doesn't have anything, quote unquote, at risk. Everything after that is total gravy. This is the same thing that happens when you say have a real estate deal and you buy the property and then you fix it up and then you refinance the money out and you keep it. You've got your money back and you still own the property. That's the same strategy or same way to do it. So his return of the principal is what that's designed to do. That's the other reason this loan thing came up on this next deal as well. So the return of the principal is what's important. Now, what he wants, once he got his money back, he wanted the 5% equity. That's to ride up. That's all that's about. It's like, cool, if I can get my money back and I take 5% in the future, it could be worth, a few $100,000 depending on whatever the company's sales or trades for, especially from a licensing deal. That could totally work. And I'm almost willing to bet that that's what he was thinking. He was trying to go get this licensed by somebody and then sell it for a few $1 million and take that 5%, get paid his $10 per unit back and then get it sold in that particular sense. But who knows? At the end of the day, he was concerned about a return of his principal, not return on his principal. He's trying to reduce his risk. Let me see. Jill's asking, I thought it was a QVC product, but Barbara scooped it. Yes, you know what, Jill? I'm willing to agree with you. This did look a QVC-ish. It looked very demonstrable, meaning demonstratable. It looked like something that you could have a number of models come through wearing, the pink one, the blue one, the whatever one, and showing them how to use it and whatnot. And that doesn't mean we won't see it. Maybe instead of QVC, it'll be on HSN, now that Barbara has it. Either way it goes, the point is we got another entrepreneur out there who's creating more jobs and making things happen. So I think we are now ready for deal number 4. So, okay, on deal number 4, I think Jessie was, she was, actually, you know what? I want to go back to deal number 3. There was one more thing that I've said before that I thought was impressive about Cece. Jacob was watching with me, and he was like, wow, she makes decisions quickly. And I said, yeah, that's because she's clear. She has the gift and the pleasure of having clarity. And I've said it before, I say it again. When you're clear, it gives you the power to do 2 things, decide and act. And she was very, very clear. She had an intention of what it is that she wanted when she stepped in the room, and she looked for that opportunity. She knew exactly what it would sound like. There was no muss, no fuss, yes, no, sounds great, move forward, done. And that's the way we want to learn to be. We want to learn to be that clear so that we have the ability to make that happen. So, let's see, deal number 4 was and it was a little confusing. That is true. I think that came up. I think that plagued her. I mean, if you just think about the pitch in and of itself in this particular case, I think that's why she lost Barbara for sure. Not that Barbara wouldn't have done it. It was not easily explained. And that sometimes you might lose your deal simply because you can't explain it. And Mark clearly not excited about it, which is also another clue specifically for Mark or other investors like Mark. Not everybody's in it for the money. Yes, there's money on the table on this particular one for sure. However, he's like, whatever. I'll go. I just want to go do something that I care about as well as earn some money. It didn't fit part of his investor identity in any way, shape, or form. So she ended up with a number of different options and offers, which were varying levels of complexity, and she declined them all. And I was just like, wow, that's interesting. This is the only deal from the night that I was like, wow, you should have taken that. I don't understand her decision. I get that she didn't want to give up. She didn't want to go in with a loan, and I think what she didn't get and didn't see was the intangibles that come along with the relationships. The intangibles is what she missed. I mean, it's one thing to have a loan. It's another to have a loan and say, hey, I can call Mr. Wonderful or Lori Grenier and go, that loan was worth their relationships, in my opinion, and she did not assign any value to that. And that was the part that she missed. It's not like any other loan unless she has a better option. That's the whole thing. If you have a bigger, better player, if you already have a brand name investor behind you in some way, shape, or form, then okay, maybe she didn't need that, but then why go to the tank in the first place, right? So at the end of the day, I thought that was definitely interesting to look at, and how they kept going back and forth on what that was. When I see that particular product, I can tell you right now, I'm not interested in the product. I know my daughter is. She's the Joanne's and Michael's kind of girl. She just loves that stuff. So this would have, if I was in there, the only reason I would have done this deal is so that my daughter could have access to this type of that particular product, because that's just one of those types of things at the end of the day. Plus, let me ask you this. If you have a killer team, if you've got things going on already, how much more insight and wisdom, what would that insight and wisdom be worth to you? I mean, basically in this particular case, she could have had her 5% equity. She knew she was going to be able to pay the loan back, but she could have had those relationships. And I was just like, man, that was the one. I think that was the one that she let get away. And I'm sure if you've watched the show any length of time, you've seen where the entrepreneur totally misses out, and you can see ones where the sharks don't seem to get it as well. And I'm just like, wow, that's interesting, because I've seen many where the sharks say no, and I'm like, why not? What am I missing? That's totally the one you should get for. This is definitely one that I think the entrepreneur totally missed it 100%. I did not even understand why.
What deal would you take in, Jay?
Deal tonight?
Yes, which
tonight.
Of this deal number 4, of the 3 offers, which one?
Oh, totally. I would have taken the 250 at 8.5%, 5% equity all day long. If she's already proven that she can pay off the debt, take the deal because she can pay off the debt and pay off the debt. But I'm paying off the debt. I'm doing it for the relationships. That's what she needed. she needed the relationships, the efficiency that Lori and Kevin could have brought to her organization, and would have more than made up for everything else that she thought she was giving up. I mean, I think it was an ego thing that got in her way, and that's unfortunate, well, for her, because at the end of the day, she missed out on an opportunity to have access to them, and that's what she missed. So that the offer that they made, convertible debt like that, all day long. Are you kidding? Would have been there every day. I don't know if I would have taken the $250 for 15% equity, because again, equity is expensive, especially when you know you're growing. The debt offer debt's cheap. When you're growing a business, debt's cheap, equity's expensive. Once the business has grown, equity's cheap and debt's expensive. So it flips and flops and it changes. So in this particular case, the offer they made her was totally fair. She just did not assign any value to the left and right of her that could have been Kevin and Lori, and that was perplexing to say the least. Let's see. Roberto, great Shark Tank episode, a bit conservative, don't you think? Yes, I was like, wow, it was rather underwhelming and the numbers were small, but it's okay. I was wondering if she should have negotiated better terms on a loan or a lower interest rate. Do you think the Sharks would consider a 5% loan? You know what, Omar? At that point, here's the thing. I don't care the interest rate. I don't care the interest rate that much because I have access to those relationships, right? She took the 110 loan and paid it off in 4 months. She's going to be able to take this 250 loan and probably pay it off in 6, maybe less, now that she's been on the Shark Tank show, because other people now know about her product. Even though she didn't get a deal, she's still going to receive a significant influx of orders because she demonstrated it well, she spoke well, people understood it, she was nice enough that she probably related to the consumer. It's not about the 5% loan. It's about their relationships. It's how do you expand that same product now go overseas and internationally, because that's probably a play for her. I mean, there was just so many places that product or a product like that could go, that relationships open the door. Business moves at the speed of trust, and she could have Lori and Kevin on her side to make that happen. Shark Tank seems to be much more conservative than at the beginning of the series. I don't know. They might be low in cash, except for Cuban. Right. You know what, Roberto, we all know that Cuban is, the chip bully at the poker table. He's the one. It's like, let's just see if Mark lets us buy one. That's pretty much how that is. Again, a QVC product. I thought Lori was an extra bonus. You know what, Jill? I think it's a retail product. I don't know that it's a QVC product. It does have some demonstration required, but I think she did the right thing by getting it into Joann's and Michael's and those types of stores. I don't really see this as an as seen on TV on a Saturday afternoon, buy now and get 2 free, and we'll throw in more ink or something, because this is all about the ink play. That's what this is all about the ink. So just keep that in mind. It's that she's got recurring revenue through repeated use. So I don't.
Printers.
What's that?
Like printers.
Yeah, exactly, like printers. Exactly. The printer, you give away the printer for free because they're going to need paper, they're going to need ink and parts over and over and over again, and that's what this was. I like the idea that it was kind of the whole sun thing, and that I thought that was cool. So she's got some of those pieces there, and I'm sure that process is very valuable, because I think on a product like this, its current use would change, and someone's going to find a better use for that same technology that she's created. And we're going to see that again in a different form and used in a different product, maybe even in a actual camera in some way, shape, or form. I could totally see that. So some sort of different type of physical camera that people one day carry around that's solar powered, literally, in some way, shape, or form. So I think that technology is great. I think it's going to change how it's being currently used. So those are the things that those are the things that I saw from this episode. I see your guys' questions. It's definitely, like I said, it's education. It's not just entertainment. That's what I love about this. I'm glad that you guys decided to stay up a little bit later than normal, and hopefully I saw, if you saw some of the previews for the next episode, I'm kind of curious to see what they're all upset about, and we can watch that one together as well. If you want to understand more about the profit analysis quadrant and how that particular works there, you can go over to cashflowdiary.com/money tool, cashflowdiary.com/money tool. I'll teach you all about it. It'll help you raise capital. It'll help you make sure that you have the ability to go out there to earn some income, get your deal together. I don't even care if all you want to do is make a widget. This particular tool will help you get access to the money because you'll be able to describe to investors how the money is going to work, how their return is going to work, and you can make that happen as well. Anyway, it's been good talking to you guys this afternoon or evening or whatever time it is, wherever you are. Glad that you guys could make it. Hopefully you like the review. Feel free to click subscribe on the channel or like or whatever it is. Give us some comments, some feedback, some more things that you would like to make sure that we talk about. Tell us, would you have done deals number 1, 2, 3, or 4, and why in the comments below as well. It's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Until next time.